G'day and welcome to Disc Golf Down Under. It's Matt here and a happy Aussie Christmas to everybody who's watching wherever you are. Hopefully Santa brought you all the discs that you were hoping for. This week I'm doing a bit of a show and tell. Christmas is a bit of a DIY season for me and I want to show you a project that I built a couple of years ago and I always get asked questions about it out on the golf course. It's my own DIY disc golf cart. So I'm going to run you through it, how it works, and I'll tell you how you can make your very own. So let's get on with the show. Okay, so let's first talk about disc golf carts. And well, we have to start with Zuka. It's probably the most well-known name of disc golf carts. In Australia, they're sold by Zuka Down Under and they sell for 460 Aussie dollars, which is a lot of money. And I was very close to buying one at the very beginning, but decided to have a look around, read some of the reviews, and yeah, well, the Zuka's not perfect. You can get it a little bit cheaper in the US at around the $250 US mark, but then you've got the trouble of getting it shipped to Australia, and that can be quite prohibitive cost-wise. Other options, there's the Click Gear Rovic RV1D, which is based on a traditional golf trolley, golf cart, and it keeps the bag up nice and high, and it was also a nice option. It's around $200 US, but again, shipping to Australia is not fantastic. Also, we've got the Bag Boy Quad XL, which is what Big Germ rocks out on the golf course. It has 4 wheels, and again is based on a traditional golf cart. Then we've got MVP has their Rover cart, and Dynamic Discs has their Easy cart. They're around the $160 US mark, but they're just a basic cart. They don't have a seat. And really, my opinion is that they're all very overpriced. And so that's where I started looking at my own do-it-yourself options. There's also one final option, and that's the poor man's Zuka. And this is just a removalist trolley. I've seen a few people with these, and this was the first thing that I got before I made my DIY cart. This can be picked up, you know, at your hardware stores or your office works. This is about $35. It's just, you fold it down, it clicks into place. It's got 2 smallish wheels on the outside and you can expand it up like that. Clicks into place. You can pop your bag on there and you can strap it down and take it out on the golf course. Now, the only issue I have found with this is, and I did use it for a while, but I found that the small wheels are not great. It's a little bit unstable, tips over a lot. As I said, used it for probably about 2 tournaments before I got sick of it and decided to go on to the next step, which is my DIY cart. The real beauty of this trolley though is that it does come down, it packs down nice and flat, so you can pack it up there, fold it over, and yeah, it goes flat, fits nicely in your car. So if you are looking for a nice portable option, without adding too much weight or room, then have a look at one of these fold down removalist trolleys. So yeah, here's my cart here. It is built on an old traditional golf cart, and on top I've got my bag, which is the MVP Voyager Pro. Great bag. If you're interested, check out the card above to see the review on that. It sits on there nicely. And I've also got an umbrella around the back that I've got clipped into a tube that I can pull out. And also a great thing about this cart is it's got a seat, so you can take a rest between throws, which I really love. Also, your bag's up nice and high, so you don't have to bend over to reach your discs. They're nice and close, so you can get easy access. And also you can load it up with plenty of gear. You can put on plenty of water and other equipment in your bag that you want to take out on the golf course. So the bag itself sits on here. It's got a post here that you can throw the bag over the top, and around the back of the cart as well. We've got some clips, some carabiners here that we can use to hold it in place and stop it from falling off. But they can be very easily unclipped, and I can easily take the bag off the cart and then we can break it down. And to break it down, it has 2 bolts. So it's got a wing nut here that I can undo. Pull that off. And then we've got another wing nut down the bottom. So we've got wing nuts with washers. And then the top section just pulls off like that. And it's got a hinge on the bottom. I can fold that up there. And it's an L shape. Mine's rigid, but I find that's fine. I can put that in the corner of the boot of my car and load all my gear around it. If you wanted to, there's no reason why you couldn't make this joint a hinge joint or a breakable joint so that you could pull it apart and fold it flat. So that is the main part of the cart. I'll show you how to build that. The rest of the cart is a traditional golf cart, an old one. This is about 30 years old. I used to play golf when I was young. This was my first golf cart. It was sitting around, I wasn't using it much, so decided to give it a new life. So the umbrella pulls off as well. And I've just got another clip here to hold that in place, so we can undo that. And then pull that off. And then this just breaks down like you normally would with your golf buggies. So pull that up, fold it down, click the legs in, and there you go, in the back of the car. Okay, so now we're going to jump in and I'm going to show you how I built my disc golf cart and the different components and how you can make your own. So first of all, you're going to need a traditional golf cart to start with. And this is one that I've had for 30 years when I used to play golf. And so it's quite old, but you can probably pick these up cheap at garage sales and perhaps on eBay or just on the side of the road from people throwing them out. Otherwise, yeah, you could spend a bit of money if you want to and buy a, just a basic one. Just some tips on this. Mine's made out of rectangular aluminium tube, very similar in dimensions to the actual tube that I've used on the frame. Makes it a lot easier to bolt, but yeah, you could use any sort of aluminium frame that you like. I've taken off, there was a plastic bracket on top to hold the golf bag and one on the bottom. I've taken them off. I've left the card holder on the top here. Might become useful when you're marking your paper cards, but that could be removed easy enough. I've also got a bracket that I can put on a mount for my golf umbrella that I can hold that on the handle as well. So that's the first step. We'll just put that aside and we'll move on to the frame. Okay, so this is the aluminium frame, and this I've made up from pretty much everything has come from Bunnings hardware store in Australia. I'll put up the screenshots and prices of each of the components so that you know what to buy. So starting with the aluminium frame. So this is 25mm aluminium tube. It's Metal Mate brand at Bunnings. And you're probably going to need around about 4 to 5 meters. Now you may want to customize your design, but overall the dimensions of my frame is it's 500 millimeters high, it's 500 millimeters long, and it is 300 millimeters wide. So 300 by 500 by 500. So that's my dimensions. As I said, you may like to customize that to your own sizing. So let's now start with the different components. So starting at the top, I've got this little upstand here, which is useful for putting your bag over the top and holding it in place. This one for me is 100 millimeters high. It probably doesn't need to be that high. You can probably get away with maybe 50, but so that's my starting point. So 100 up here, and then we've got two parts here. These are 115 millimeters, these two sections here. And then we've got our uprights. So the uprights are 450 long on either side. And then same, and down in the bottom corner here, this section here is 255. Down here, that section there. Then underneath, we've got the side sections on the base. These are about 440 millimeters. So one on there. And then again, another section on there, which is the same as the back corner. This one is 245 millimeters or thereabouts. So that is my sizing so that is the main frame. And then to connect the pieces of frame, we have these plastic connectors. Now, if you can weld aluminium, great, that's what I would recommend. Make it nice and rigid. But yeah, if you're a bit like me, you don't have a welder and you just want to connect it using these plastic connectors. These are called connectors from Bunnings. And so we have at the top, we have two 90-degree bends up here, so a 90 and a 90. We also have the same down on the front corner here, so 4 of those bends all up, so 2 90s down here as well. Up the top here we have a T-piece, so 1 T. And then down in this corner we have a 3-way corner piece, so 2 of those. You'll also notice some end caps. So I've got an end cap up the top. This is just to stop you from getting cut on the aluminium frame. So 1 up there, 2 on this end, and then 2 on the other end down here. So 5 end caps. So you can easily put them together, and the plastic has a bit of an interference fit with the tube, so you have to tap it in with a mallet and it stays nice and tight. As I mentioned, you could, if you wanted to, perhaps design in a hinge joint here. If you want to be able to fold this flat, you could put a hinge joint in here. Or you could not fasten it and you could pull this apart if you wanted to, lay it all flat. But I'm quite happy with the L shape. I can float it to the back of my car, stick it in the corner, and it doesn't take up too much room. With mine as well, I put in this bit of flat bar on the corner and screwed that in tight to give it a bit of rigidity. Without that, with just the plastic, it was a little bit loose, and I found that if you sat on it, if someone was being silly and sat on it and pushed against it, it was starting to crack the plastic. So that helps make it nice and rigid, and it's very solid, it ain't going anywhere. So you can assemble all that with your plastic connectors. And the next thing is, once you've got that all put together, is the base part of the frame that we want to use to connect to our golf cart. So what I've done here, so first of all, is these 2 long sections here. And they are each, so there's 2 of these, and they are 550 millimeters long. And so they are bolted to the front and the bottom, so both bottoms, front and rear. And that's just using some bolts, M5, M6. And the way I've spaced it out is that there's a gap at the front for the upright tube to go in, so it's about 25 millimeters apart. So you can see that goes in there. And at the back, it's a little bit wider spacing. The aluminium tube on my golf cart is 30 millimeters wide, so the gap at the back is 30 millimeters in here. So that allows us to put this in between the tube, and I can put a bolt through it to connect it to the golf cart frame. So that just gets bolted on, as I mentioned. And then finally, the upright. So the upright, again, is another piece of square aluminium tube, and the length on this one is about 460 millimeters. So it gets fastened down here with another bolt, and up the end here, I've cut a bit of an angle on it. You don't need to do that, but that was just to make it fit in nicer. So I've cut a 45-degree angle in that, on that end piece. And you can then see I've also bolted on some flat bar. So this is 3 millimeter aluminium flat bar, and I've put 2 back to back on either side, 2 bolts to hold it in place straight through the aluminium, and then I've got my other bolt here with my wing nut on the bottom. So this is my attachment point onto the bottom of my golf cart. And then the other bolt up the top is for the top attachment point. So 2 attachment points which we can then connect on. So that's the frame, and you can see that that folds up like that, nice and flat. If I want to, I can take it off. It's got a wing nut on there as well. Last piece of the frame is the sheet here. So this is propeller plate, and it's 600 millimeters long by 300 wide. So again, that's from Bunnings. And all I've done is I've just pop riveted it on, and I used a bit of timber and just a mallet to bend it around the corners to, get your nice bends. So I made mine 300 millimeters wide, my frame, and that was because that's the size that the propeller plate comes in. But that's not a bad size. It can sit comfortably on 300 millimeter wide seat. And then finally up here, I've just also riveted a piece of flat bar across the back, and it's got some holes in it. And that's what I use when I put my bag on. bag's got some carabiners, I can clip into those holes. And you can position that at whatever's comfortable for you to hold your bag nice and comfortable. So that's your frame. It's not that very heavy. And all up, it costs probably, it would be about $100 with all of the components. Okay, so the final modification now that I added was so that I could put my umbrella on the golf cart. And all I did was I just found down the bottom here, just on the plastic brackets, I've just got a couple of pieces of aluminium flat bar and bolted them on, and they just stick up. And I've got myself a bit of 50mm PVC pipe. This is just a bit of offcut from a home renovation job. And that just sits over those prongs nicely, the flat bar. And then it sits up here, and I've just bent a bit of aluminium flat bar up here as well with another bolt and a wing nut. And all I need to do is put my PVC pipe there, pop the flat bar over it, position it, put the bolt through, and tighten up the wing nut. And so this is just something I pop on whenever I might be playing in a wet round. So the PVC pipe sits there, then got my golf umbrella, and it just slides in there like that and stays put. And it, you know, as you're rolling around, it doesn't move around too much. So that's it, that's my cart. So assembly is the reverse of the steps that I showed you at the beginning of the disassembly. All I need to do is take the bolts out the front, at the back and the bottom, place this onto the cart, line up the holes, push the bolts through and do up the wing nuts. The wing nuts, you have to make sure you do them up nice and tight. Otherwise, when you're running around on the golf course, they may shake loose and fall off. If you wanted to, you could possibly pop in a spring washer there as well, if you want to. Okay, so we've assembled the trolley now. That doesn't take too long. As I said, it's just 2 bolts. So the final piece of the puzzle is to locate the frame. And in my position, I'm quite a tall person. I'm just over 6 foot. So I've positioned my seat level at about 530, 540 millimeters high. And yeah, you can just locate your bolts, top and bottom. And so you want that upright, fairly straight. And that's it, ready to go. So that's it, that's my DIY golf cart. Put it together for just a bit over $100 with all the bits and pieces. And if you've got some spare bits and bobs hanging around the house, then you'll probably be able to do it cheaper than that. I personally believe that a cart is great to have, especially in a tournament. If you're playing 36 plus holes a day, then carrying a bag around, picking it up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down, bending over, picking up the disc, it takes it out of you. If you've got a cart, especially one like this that's nicely balanced, doesn't take much to pull, it really helps to take the physical side out of the game, and I definitely feel a lot better after playing 36 holes with a golf cart compared to lugging a bag around all day. The seat itself is quite stable. It doesn't look it, but I can move a little bit from side to side. I wouldn't want to push it too much front or rear, it might tip over, but it's stable enough. I've had this for over a couple of years now and no issues with feeling like it's going to tip over or break. Being built on a traditional golf cart, it's much more user-friendly for out in rugged terrain. It handles the mud, it handles the steep slopes. It's much more stable, doesn't tip over, and it just rolls nicely as well. So much better than your smaller traditional carts. So that brings us to the end of this video. Hopefully you found it useful and you can now go out and make your own DIY disc golf cart with your own customizations at a fraction of the cost of the retail products. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, subscribe and comment down below. Otherwise, have a happy Christmas. Get out there on the disc golf course. Hopefully I'll catch you out there. Otherwise, I'll see you in the new year.